Hello everyone. In this screencast, let's explore many of the GitHub features that can be used especially when working in a team. We'll be exploring many such tools. For example, project management, documentation, bug tracking, continuous integration, and many more. So let's get started and first learn how to add team members to our project or even just a code repository. So here I am in a brand new GitHub account called CoderTuts. Let's look at the repository that has been created. So I am inside a very simple code repository, which is just a hello world for a Node.js project. Now, how do we add collaborators to this project or even many such projects? If we are working with a lot of teams with many code repositories, then GitHub has organizations. Let's see how we can add organizations. So firstly, we'll go under account settings, organizations right at the bottom, and this is how we can create organizations. And we'll just name it as NetTut Coders and billing email. And finally at the bottom, for open source, it is completely free, so we'll choose that option and create organization. Now for administrative purpose, we can add on other GitHub users, but let's just go on to the organization dashboard. And over here, if I go under teams, I can create a new team with various permission levels. As we can see, we can create new teams with 3 different permission levels. We can add the members here as well as the repositories, and then we can simply save the team. Now let's say we do not need so many teams, but we just want to add one collaborator to this particular project, and I'm going to split the screen now. So here I am accessing the same repository, but this is through my account. What if I want a read and write access? Notice here, firstly, I have only a read access, whereas of course the originator of the project both has a read and write access. So let's go to the settings of the repository, and under collaborators right here, I can add a friend. So let me just add myself. And after I add myself and I refresh the page, notice that I have both read and write access. So collaborators or GitHub organizations, these are broadly 2 ways how we can add teammates to our projects. Next, let's explore what are pull requests, sending one and even merging one as the code repository owner. For this, for simplicity, I'll just go ahead and remove myself as one of the collaborators to contribute to this repository as a forked one. So notice here, once again, I have a read-only access. Let me just fork this repository, which will make an exact copy in my GitHub account. And there you go, it's forking. Now that I have my own copy of this repository, let's go ahead and clone this. So I'll first click this SSH URL and copy this URL, come back to my terminal and make a clone of it. And I'll cd into it and open it up in Sublime Text. Now before I make any changes to this project, a very good practice is to do a branch. So git checkout -b and let's say readme just for the feature name. Just for simplicity, I'll have an edit to the readme file so that it is language agnostic as possible. So I'm just gonna say pull requests. They are awesome. Save it. Come back to my command line and add it. Git commit with a message, edits to readme. Great. Now I can just git checkout to the master, and this time when I push to GitHub, I will include the branch name. Just in case if you're wondering where I got the name origin, you can always just check all the remote names. For example, git remote -v, or if you just want all the branches, just git branch. Right, that looks good. So now when I come back to my own repository and refresh the page, this time you'll see a pull request, but we are going to make a change to the branch, which is readme that we just pushed, and then we will come back and make a pull request. Edits to readme, some improvements, and send a pull request. Notice it will direct me to the CoderTuts account, and it will initiate a pull request number 1, and this will come both as an issue as well as a pull request. Let me now go back to the owner account. So here I'll see, so somebody has sent me a pull request. So why don't I go ahead and look at it, and maybe I have some improvements for suggestions. So I just say thanks. It would be great to add in some info about pull requests as well. So I'm just gonna comment it once again. Now let's say I saw that comment, and what I can do, I can come back right in my terminal, change the branch once again. So git checkout readme and continue working on the branch. And maybe I'll just add in some reasons why they are so awesome, because you can add in some features, experimentations, fixes, and so on. Right, so I'll do the same thing and I'll push it all the way to GitHub and git push origin readme. That's all what I have to do. So now when I come back to the same pull request and just refresh the page, you'll notice that the pull request has been updated with the new commit. So at this point of time, maybe the owner said, hey, it looks good, so I'm just going to merge it. Now when you merge, there are basically two ways of merging a pull request. You can either merge it directly with the master branch on GitHub. In that case, we'll just press the green button on the right. But let's say you want to do it locally and run some tests. In that case, we'll just click this little icon for info and it will give us very clear instructions on how to do so. So I'll not go through these steps as it is quite self-explanatory. Now I'll just go ahead and merge it. Yep. Looks all good to me, and confirm merge. And this is how we can just close the pull request by merging it to the master branch. And now when we refresh the page, yes, the pull request number as well as the issues number is down to 0 once again. One great thing about pull request is that it will show you exactly the commits that are made as well as the file changes. Now as a side note, I've kind of simulated a situation where there is a merge conflict. In this case, GitHub will not give us the green bar. Instead, it will give us this gray bar. But it's the same thing. On the left hand side, we will see that there are clear instructions how we can download it locally, make the test, and merge it by removing the conflicts. So these are basically how you can do a pull request through a branch and then even a merge pull request either locally or directly on GitHub. Next, let's look at the GitHub bug tracking. In GitHub, the way we do that is everything through issues. So here I am in a very popular project called HTML5 Boilerplate. And let's click the Issues tab. Now there are lots of useful things going around here. Firstly, you have the Closed Issues tab as well, which will give us a glimpse into all the issues in the past. And of course, there are 8 open issues as of now. First thing you'll notice that there is an autocomplete search bar that allows us to search through all the issues. And because this autocompletes, it will quickly give us all the related suggestions. Similarly, each issue can also be associated with a label that can be customized and colored as well. Finally, let's look at the milestones. So every issue can also be associated with a milestone, and because milestones and issues are associated with each other, the progress bar signifies the number of issues that are closed within the associated milestones. So let's come back to our own repository and create an issue. So we will just click New Issue, and just for simplicity, once again, I'll just create an issue on the README itself. I'll just include features of GitHub issues. And the cool thing about this is we can add in the colored labels. So maybe we can just add in for enhancement and maybe add in a milestone, maybe call it just version 1 right here, and then just submit the issue. Now there we have it, one open issue, and when we open it, it will give us a familiar dialog box, and there you have it. It also says that the issue is number 2. The cool thing about issues or any text box in GitHub is that you can even mention another issue. For example, this might be related to issue number 1, and you can just do a command enter to kind of submit it. And notice how this is kind of hyperlinked back to issue 1. Just for simplicity, I'll just edit the README file on the GitHub interface itself, and I'll just add in some notes about issues, and they can be used for features or even fixing broken stuff. Right, that looks good to me. Now in my commit message, instead of just saying updated README with issues information, I can even add in the tag of the issue number. So I'll just say fixes, then hash, and then the number. In this case, it was 2. Let's see what happens when we associate a hash and an issue number to every commit change message. Now when I come back to issue, notice that it is automatically 0. Why is this so? Because when we go back to our closed issue, we will see that issue number 2 is automatically closed with just the commit message, fixed, hash, and the issue number. Notice here how the milestone is also closed as the progress bar is completed. Next, let's look at some of the analytical tools that GitHub has to offer, and these come in very handy and insightful, especially when working with big groups. So here we will take a look at the graphs as well as the network tab. And we are looking at another very popular project, Node.js. So let's look at the graphs. Graphs provide us 4 different visualizers that give us insights into who are the contributors, how many lines of code were added or deleted, when were they added, what times of the day, and so on and so forth. So let's look at the contributors. Here it gives us the list of the contributors as well as the graphs, and you can even filter by addition or deletions. Let's look at the commits. So the commit tabs give us a glimpse into the history of commits of what was happening in the last 52 weeks, and with the handy left and right arrows we can even navigate through the weeks. The code frequency gives us a glimpse into the entire life cycle. For example, Node.js project was started right in 2009, and we can see the additions and deletions and the number of lines. And finally, the punch card very interestingly shows us which times of the days of the week the codes were committed. Very insightful indeed in deciding some patterns and activities that are taking place with the team members. Let's now go inside the network tab. Let's look at the networks, and here I am of course in a very big project such as Node.js, and let's first describe it. So what's happening is on the x-axis is the timeline, on the y-axis are all the contributors, and each of the dots are actually one commit each. And of course if we click here it will also give us the various keyboard shortcuts. Very handy and useful to see how every branch and master branch are related, and also look at the entire network of all the contributors and how they're all related to one another or even the master branch. Next, let's look at some project management tools that we can integrate with GitHub. Firstly, we'll go through Trello, which is also another popular project management tool that uses simple cards to manage our tasks. And we will also go through Pivotal Tracker, which is a lightweight and heavily based on agile project management ideas. So we're going to use these two as an illustration and link up with our GitHub pull requests and commits. So first we will look at Trello. So here I have already created a very simple Trello board called the NetTuts team, and it has just 4 cards which kind of says the flow of the work from to do, pull request, commits, all the way to done. To set up a pull request, so let's just say that every time we have a pull request there will be a new item in this card automatically. To set that up we will go to service hooks of that repository, and then we'll go right at the bottom and look for Trello, and there you go. Seems like it needs some information from us. Now in the install notes there are very clear instructions, so let's just go through them. First you will need to create a consumer token, so I'll just go ahead and click the hyperlink, and yes, and copy the token for later use. Next we will go to this URL that will give us more information about the board. So there you go. In this URL we need to replace this board ID with the ID from the URL. So I'm just going to copy this, come back here and paste it right here, and the token will be the token given right so. Come back to the URL, replace the token with the token number. So let me just enter and see what data is given. It will give us a JSON formatted data with more information about the cards and some numbers that we can possibly use. So let's look at this list. In the list it gives us the various names. So there you go. There is the familiar to do, the pull request, commits and done, which is basically exactly the same as the cards right here. So we want to add it to the pull request card. So let's go ahead and find that. There you go. And we will copy in this card number, come back to our service hooks and pasted it right over here. And of course we need the consumer token as well, and make sure that we check active update settings. Just to make sure everything is working fine, we will have to click the test hook as well so that the payload is deployed, and just update settings once again. So next let's try to make a pull request and see how an item is created automatically right here. So I already made a pull request, so let me just change correct branch and just like before make a pull request. Alright, looks like the pull request has been created. What about Trello? And yes, there you go, the pull request, a new item has been created automatically right here, and when we click the card it will give us the hyperlink item which will lead us back to GitHub. So in a team with a lot of pull requests or even some commits, it makes updating of project management tools like Trello so much easier and even accurate. After Trello, let's look at Pivotal Tracker. In this case we will do something very similar. In Pivotal Tracker, first we will create create a story, and let's just put it as learning GitHub plus pivotal tracker, and maybe I'll just put it as 2 points and just assign it to myself and save it. There you go. So a story has been created. So let's just start the story. Now let's come back to the service hooks and set up the pivotal tracker. So pivotal tracker is really simple as well. All we need is a consumer token. To access consumer token, we will go to our profile right here and we'll scroll right to the bottom to copy the API token. Of course, you can also create a new one as and when you wish. So let's just come back to the service hook, paste the token and update the settings, and just ensure that you test the hook so that the payload is deployed. Now that everything is set up, let's go ahead and make a commit. And just for simplicity, I'll go ahead and make some changes to the README file once again with this little addition on project managements, and not just these softwares but many more. Now that it is done, our commit message, we will have to include the ID of the story. So to do that, we'll just come back to the story and copy the ID right here. Then in bracket, we will say delivers hash and then the ID number. Let's just commit the changes and see what happens. So GitHub has committed the changes, and let's come back to the pivotal tracker, and there you go. The state has been changed from started to delivered, all ready for us to accept or reject the story. And one more thing that I really like is that GitHub will post a message here connecting us with a hyperlink that will give us more information about the changes that is made in that exact commit. So do definitely check out on the service hooks by GitHub and pivotal tracker to set up such linkages in commits. Now, if you're wondering what about other project management tools, yes, there are others like Asana and Basecamp which are very similar to set up as well. And if there are other project management tools that are not listed in the entire list of service hooks in GitHub, do go ahead and write one for yourself, because all of these service hooks are open source as well. So do give a try on linking up GitHub with any project management tool of your choice. Next, we will go through continuous integration. CI becomes extremely important, especially when working in a team of software developers, because all the time we have various different developers checking in various code, and this might cause some integration problem. Well, using a CI platform, this enables us to have automated tests and builds that gives us immediate feedback whether something is broken or not. For this demo, we will be using Travis CI, or rather Travis Continuous Integration. It is a hosted CI service for open source, and the good news is even for private repositories they have a premium account. So for this demo, we'll be using a very simple hello world example with Node.js, and if we go through the Travis documentation, it is really clear step by step on how to set that up. Let's first go ahead and look at our demo. For this, we will be creating a repository under an organization account. So I've already created it. Let's go ahead and look at the file. So firstly, there's hello.js, which has the hello world for Node, and then there's grunt.js, which is the build tool, and lastly there's package.json, which has the dependencies written there. I've already cloned the repository to my local machine, so let's go through that. So there you go, this is the hello.js. The grunt.js, which is a build tool, has only one task just for simplicity, and it will be for linting. And lastly, this is the package.json, which has only one dependency, the grunt. Just for demo, I will come back to my command line and run grunt and take a look at the linting task. Obviously, everything is passing as of now. But let's say I go back to hello.js and remove the semicolon here just for a demo. And now when I run grunt, let's see what happens. It will obviously fail because the linting is failed without any semicolon. So using Travis, we will try to demo both a failing build and a passing build. Let's get started. For the very first step, we will log into our Travis account using the GitHub authentication. On the left, it will show us our various accounts, and in this case, it is the organization account. And once we do a sync, it should give us the latest repositories. Next, I'll go ahead and set the hook to on. Now, once we do that, if we come back to the repository and the service hooks, exactly like what we did in the previous times during the project management tools, and we come back right at the bottom to Travis, we will see that the hook is already set up. Next, all we need to do is add add a .travis.yml file. So there you go. I'll just create the YML file, and inside the YML file I'll just put in some very basic code that tells us something about the environment. Let's go ahead now, commit the file. Now just a little bit of caution, we will have to create a manual push in this case to trigger Travis. Now once we come back to Travis, we will have to access travis-ci.org/the account name /the repo, and here you see the build has already started. This time it has passed. Why don't we go ahead and simulate a failing build? So in this case, I'll go back to hello.js, exactly like what I did in my local machine, edit it and remove the semicolon just to fail the build. So I'll come back here, remove it, and at the bottom I'll just commit the changes. Let's come to Travis and see what happens. And there you go, build 3 has started, and now it is using npm install, and you can see what is happening actually. And yep, as expected, this has failed. I'll just come back here and make sure that is passing by putting in the semicolon. Now let's go and explore Travis CI with pull requests. This becomes especially important when working in a team. So now I'll go to my account and make sure I get a forked copy. And inside my local machine of the forked copy in a new branch, let me just try to fail the build. And very simply, I'll just take out the semicolon and check it out. And at the master branch, very similarly, I'll do a git push origin and the branch name. Now before I do a pull request in GitHub, we have to note that Travis now needs to be able to read our repository. And to do that, we will go to our organization NetTuts Coders. Under the team management, we will create a new team and call it bot. This is basically, we will add here the Travis bot. Let us find it. There you go. And we will add it to the repository and give it only the read request. And let's save the team. And once we do that, Travis bot will have access to Travis GitHub repository, but only the reading act. Now once we do that, we can come back to the forked repository, select the branch, and just like before, do a pull request. Now when I come back to the original repository, it will give us this familiar merge pull request, but we do know that this is actually failing. So let's go back to Travis and see what happens. And there you go, build 5 has started. And if we go on the pull request tab, the build is already starting for that pull request. And there you go, as predicted, it has failed. But now when we go back to the pull request of the original repository, note here what Travis is doing. Firstly, Travis has added on a few things on top of our previous pull. After the build has completed in Travis, Travis adds a message here, failed, the Travis build has failed. And it also adds a little red dot here right away. And upon clicking here, it will bring us to the Travis page. This is extremely useful. So as a contributor to the project who has sent in the pull request, I am already aware that, hey, this is failing. So let me just go ahead, add in the semicolon just to pass it, and I'll push it to GitHub again. So there you go. I have done git push origin Travis, and now let me just go back to the original repository. Let's wait for Travis to do the build. Notice here the green or the red dot is not here yet. And of course, when we go back to Travis, build 6 has started and it has passed. So let's go back to GitHub. And there you go. Travis adds a little green signal to tell us success. Travis build has passed. And it has also given us a guidance message, good to merge. Travis build has passed. So let me just go ahead and safe and soundly just push the merge button. Yes, confirm merge. Everything is good. So I hope this has given us a glimpse into how continuous integration can be so useful in a team, whether we are just pushing in the code ourselves or whether somebody else is doing a pull request or even branch. Travis CI is just simply awesome when collaborating in software development teams. Now, if we go under service hooks once again, there is also another popular continuous integration such as Jenkins. So for those of you who are also using Jenkins, yes, there is a GitHub plugin available as well. Do go ahead and check it out. Next, we will go through code reviews. Often when working in teams, we would want to have some little tools so that we can get the differences between the commits, who committed, what are the differences, so on and so forth. GitHub allows us some very cool little tools to do that. So firstly, we will go to this commits, where it will show us all the commits we made until today. And from here, let us do a little bit of comparison. So to do the comparison, I'll open up a new tab, and then it will be username/repository name/compare, and here we will be able to compare the SHA ones. So let's just say an older SHA one. So I'll go ahead and copy this one, and then we do a ... and then we get a later SHA one. Right, and now when we press enter, GitHub is able to give us a neat view on what are the exact differences. You can go ahead and do the same thing with tags or branches. Another cool thing about GitHub is that we can put in line comments. So this becomes extremely useful when we have our teammates commenting on our code just for feature recommendations, strategy, or even simply code quality. So when we hover over here, look at how the yellow lines appear. So we can go here and click the little comment button, and there you go, we have inline comments. After we kind of refresh the page, we will see here a checkbox. This will kind of toggle on and off the inline notes. So let's do that. This is off and this is on. So every time you're on a page with commits and you want to see whether there are any inline notes, do go ahead and use this. Often in our commit differences, we also have white spaces. Notice here, I've actually put in 4 spaces here. In that case, if you want to see changes without the white spaces, come right at the end of the URL and then put in $w=1. Now once we do that, notice there were no deletions. Deletion was only because of the white space, which is being ignored by the query string that we put here right at the end of the URL. Finally, along with compare, you can also add .diff to your URL right at the end, and this will give us a handy git message, or you can even do a .patch right at the end. And finally, let's go through some documenting tools that come with GitHub. For that, we will go to the wiki tab right here. And there you go, it is a bare page. So let's go ahead and create a new page. Right, so I will definitely leave it to you on how you want to create the wiki. But the cool thing about the wiki is this, that if you go up on the tabs, it gives us the history, it gives us the various pages, and most importantly, it even has its own Git repository. There you go. Now, by this time, you might have noticed that we will probably have 2 different Git repositories, one for the source code and the other one for the wiki page. To solve that, we will go ahead and add this wiki Git project as a submodule of the source code. So we will first go to .travis.yml file, and here we will add in a little bit of information. This basically says Git submodules do not go through it. And to do that, we will do a git submodule add and then the wiki git URL. And now when we come back to the repository in GitHub, guess what? The submodule of wiki is now added. In the final part of documentation, we will learn how to deploy Hubot and plug into our chatbot to make us do a lot of cool automation. And we'll also deploy Hubot to Heroku, a very popular platform to deploy and scale our apps. Now, if you are wondering whether you can use Hubot for other chat interfaces, yes, there are a lot of other adapters, but for our demo today, we'll be using Campfire. Finally, let's deploy Hubot to Heroku first. Here, there is a very clear instruction on how to do that. So let's get started by downloading the zip file. So now I'm inside the Hubot master, and over here, I'll do an npm install, and then next I'll do a make package, and finally, I'll cd into the folder called Hubot. So this is the folder that contains our Hubot source code. As you can see, Hubot comes with a lot of scripts here, and over here later on we'll be integrating the GitHub scripts so that Hubot can plug into our GitHub repository and do some cool stuff. So this is obviously not a Git repository, so let's quickly do a git init and git add, git commit, initial commit. Next, we will require the Heroku Ruby gem. So if you don't already have it, do make sure and install it. And over here, I'll create a Heroku app and deploy it to Heroku. So to do that, I'll just do Heroku create, and it will give me a randomly generated domain name, and we'll do a git push Heroku master. All right, and we also need to add a Redis to go Heroku add-on so that the Hubot brain is maintained. After this, we will have to add in some configuration. So the first one is Heroku URL. So to access that, we will just cut and paste the Heroku app that we just created, like so. So now I am already inside a brand new Campfire account, and here I will be creating a new room here. Let's just call it NetTouch Team Chat. So first you need to add in the Hubot Campfire token, and I already added in the token, so the next configuration will be the Campfire rooms, and we can get the room number right in the URL up here. And the final configuration is our Campfire subdomain of the Hubot. So I've already added in the configuration, and this was the subdomain. Finally, we will just go ahead and scale the process in Heroku. Everything looks good now. Now I'll exit the Campfire account of the Hubot and enter my own Campfire account. There you go. Hubot is there, and so am I. Let's just test out whether Hubot is working. So the very first command I'll do is Hubot help. And if everything is fine, guess what? There will be an automatic reply. Let's just try out something. Let's say Hubot ship it. That was funny. How about Hubot map me CERN? There you go. It even gives a Google Map link there. And finally, let's see. Hubot mustache me. This just makes you see why Hubot can be so addictive. And if you see, Hubot has a lot of scripts, but just as an example, we will install the GitHub commits Coffeescript. So over here, let's create a new file called github-commits. I'll just paste in all the code. But right at the top, there are some instructions. So let's first get the dependencies in. And so the dependencies are added in. And finally, we'll just add it and push it to Heroku. Git push Heroku master. So after the git push to the Heroku with the new GitHub commit script, we'll just come to the service hooks, click the very first one, and as according to the instructions right here, we'll put in the URL. So once we update it and we add in new comments, guess what? Hubot will be automatically notifying the entire chats about what are the commits and even giving us the little short URLs. Do go ahead and check out the Hubot scripts GitHub repository because it has other GitHub Coffeescripts that we can also use along with Hubot, and of course many other fun Hubot scripts. If you want to write your own, do go ahead and take a look at this tutorial which teaches us how to do exactly that. And that sort of wraps up about a lot of features that GitHub has to offer, especially when working in teams. As a final note, whenever you want to use some shortcuts as a productivity tip, just press Shift and then question mark, and this will bring us to the site-wide shortcut keys, and if you see all, there are plenty. And finally, as a last tip, remember to always use mentions, and even more importantly, plenty of, that's right, emojis. So here's wishing all of us a fun and productive working in Teams and GitHub.